We have today a real treat for a speaker. I had a chance to meet Ratanjit Sondhe back when I came back to work, and he had been appointed by our board to the Cleveland Foundation Board of Directors, and then he came up for a reappointment, and we needed to become familiar with him. And so we had a series of meetings and get-togethers, and little by little, we've become acquainted. I've been down to his house several times. His house is also sort of a staging for his own second career that he has undertaken. He broadcasts internationally out of his home. You can see from the books and the leadership materials that he has outside that he has a philosophy and approach to leadership that is inspirational. He invited me down for a training session a couple months ago. I, in turn, invited him out to Baldwin-Wallace to speak to several classes, which was a big hit. And now we have an opportunity to hear from him this morning. Ratanjit, so how did he get here, was the founder and CEO of Polycarb, which is a company that he started, and he will probably tell you a little bit about that. I won't say anything more. But since then, in selling the company and doing quite well in the process of that, he has turned his attention to the things that motivated him and kind of spreading that word. In addition to the Cleveland Foundation Board, he also serves on the boards of several privately held corporations, universities, and other nonprofit organizations. I think that you are going to enjoy what he has to say. They're words of wisdom from just a wonderful human being. Ratanjit Sondhe.
Thank you so much. I never had a opportunity in public to thank Center of Community Foundation to give me this amazing opportunity to serve on the board of Cleveland Foundation, which is my new learning session. Instead of my contributing there, I learn a lot, and this is one of the most well-kept secret in our society. What Cleveland Foundation, it touches the lives of everyone. And John, welcome to this new role. And John, good luck to you in your retirement. I know the retirement means different to you than anybody else. So before I start, I need to caution you that I don't prepare any of my lectures. They come, I tune on to Divine Internet, and in case you wonder, these are my antennas. So if they are not pointed in the right direction, the information coming to me may not be right. So if somebody finds that this is not making sense, come and correct my antennas, please. We are placed on this earth without a manual. We don't come with a manual. And another thing is that we have a fallacy that by getting degrees, by knowledge, we enrich ourselves. We are not our knowledge, we are our habits. So if we convert our knowledge, what we learn, and create new habits, then we bring value. Otherwise, we keep on lecturing, we keep on training, we keep on telling things, we keep on publishing articles, but we don't practice it. Look at doctors. They are trained for health, and their own personal lifespan is lower than the normal people. So I'm going to talk about how to maximize this human experience. And the wisdom of that lies right in this word human. If you knew what HUMAN stood for, you can realign yourself to the maximum you, the most potentially gifted being which is present within you. So let me see if you can guess what is H stand for. Any guesses? I gave away the hint. Habits. Habits. So we are what our habits are. Our children do not copy what our parents tell us. They copy parents' habits. They are basically reflection of their habits. And then we keep on telling them, no, don't do this. But we don't change our own habits. Have we ever taken an inventory of our habits? We never do. We just cultivate these habits, and what we call habits is smoking as a habit. What we call habits is the drinking as a habit. But what we don't call all these other activities which come out of you as our habits. So to become human, there are, I discovered in my entire career, there are 25 habits for success. And the 25th habit is the master habit, which converts you into a human being. And that master habit is, our habit is what is in it for me. We always think, when you meet somebody, you take somebody's card, you say, well, he can help me here, or she can help me here. So we are always looking for our gains. So does the animals. So to graduate from that to a pure human being, our habits have to be, what can I give? And true human habit places you into unconditional. The world is unconditional. We do give, we do serve, we do love, but we do that conditional. We tell our children, say, if you do this, Mama would love you, right? But we don't understand the power of unconditional loving, serving, and giving. And please also understand that we do not do that to get trophies and medals. We do not do that to be known. We do that for our own sanity. So once we understood that all our unconditional giving, serving, and loving is what is going to nurture me. The food nurtures your body, but your body is not you. You are power within you. That cannot be nurtured until you feed that real being which resides within you. And that being is only fed by unconditional loving, serving, and giving. That's what all our organizations do. But we do that conditionally. Many of us sit on the boards to elevate our resumes. Many of us do things to benefit us. But until you develop this habit, so anything you do for consecutively 39 times, it becomes a habit. So whenever you're doing something, do not look for your self-interest. So the second letter, H-U, can you guess what U stands for? See, U stands for universal laws. Because whatever we have developed, all our technology, everything is all based on knowing, understanding, and applying those universal laws. But there is another universal law which converts us from an ordinary being to a very profound human being. That universal law is, what you sow, so shall you reap. And the nature has planted a policeman within us. We call it our conscience. So a human being elevates herself or himself once they get connected to the voice within you. And that voice within you would lead you, and right now it may be very feeble because we have not nurtured it. So the conscience, until it's elevated and given the power, the veto power, it does not happen. Now, in this world, we talk about ethics, we talk about values, but they don't really apply. You know Rajat Gupta, who was the CEO of McKinsey and Company, a very powerful consulting firm in the world. They consult with all Fortune 500s. You know what their corporate culture was? Ethics. But they talked about it, but never practiced it. He's sitting in jail. So this is what happens to us. So until your conscience is strong, the greatest leader of this earth have a very well-developed, very strong conscience, which is already in there. That is your connection to the divine power. That is where you elevate yourself to a much higher human being. So now next letter, because I have limited time, otherwise this whole thing goes for a whole day program, training. M. So that should be easy to guess. Money. That's where we are. That's where we are. Mankind. See, it's only in the human species we talk about morality. Right? Animals don't talk about morality. We talk about morality. So where do we get morality? See, you can write all these things. I'm going to be honest. You paste it on your mirror. You memorize it. I'm going to be this, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be this. But you are going to trade it. Some trade it for $1,000. Some trade it for $1 million. Some trade it for $1 billion. But we all trade it. Our morality is not embedded in us because our morality is acquired from outside. Your parents tell you, your churches tell you, your school tell you, so you have to be moral. But it hasn't come from within you. You have not become morality itself. See, you cannot be moral until you are spiritual. I'm not talking about religious. And spirituality is merely, in its shortest definition, spirituality is absence of duality. When two don't exist, you become moral. Look in our human body. We have all these organs, your liver, your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, but they all work in unanimous. They are unconditionally adding the highest value. They're all one. This body operates as one because none of these organs have their own agenda. There are 37 trillion cells in our body, and they serve this body. They sacrifice their very existence to fight diseases. But then, my friends, once in a while there comes a cell which has its own agenda. It destroys the very body it feeds. We call it a cancer cell. So when we are operating with our agenda, which does not add value to the bigger one or society, we are thinking like a cancer cell. You cannot be a human being with that mindset until you are doing everything for this bigger body. You have to sacrifice everything you have because you are not this human body. This human body is where you are placed. There is another way to understand this. You see, in a building, there are light bulbs, and they could be of different wattage. They could be manufactured by different companies. They could have different design. But when they are lit, when there is life in them. They have a live wire connection to the same power source. Similarly, my friends, when we are alive, you have a live wire connection to the same single source. If you are religious, you can call it God. If you are scientific, you can call it energy. Whatever you may call it, that is who you are. You are not this human body. And we are talking about diversities. We are talking about he's black or he's white or he's Asian. And they are all associated with our body, not us. We are all the same. We are the power within us. And when I die, my body is laying there. Nobody calls it that is Ratanjit. That's his body. So who is Ratanjit? So that is why, my friends, if you understand the power of this oneness, then everything falls into place. You are not a separate entity. You are not, although it is said, Einstein once said that we have this optical delusion that we are a separate being. And it is our personal responsibility that to understand this wisdom and get out of this self-imposed prison and comprehend the wisdom of oneness. That's Einstein said this. So all our understanding will fall into place. Things will begin to make sense once you understand that you are part of each other. And this human body, which is, I'm standing in front of you, my friends, this did not exist 4 or 5 years back. There was a totally different molecular structure, which I flushed it. And this is totally new. And so if we give this importance to this just human body, we are missing out the reality. The reality is that we are the power within us. Either we are the light bulb or the light within the light bulb. So who are you? That is very important. That's where the morality comes. Once you become moral based on that perception that we are all one, then how can you cheat? Your heart does not cheat, your lungs doesn't cheat, the body does not cheat itself. Your eyes, whatever they see, transform into your brain. Whereas if we line up 10 people, you say one thing at one end, the other end, it is changed already. Because we are not one. Now, next letter, once you are moral, A, H-U-M-A. Now, A is very powerful. If you have reached up to M, you are ready to become power source. A stands for abundance. Once we are separate, if I am a separate being, you are a separate being, my resources will always remain limited. My bank account, my home, my this, my that, even my spouse, my children. My friends, you cannot have a spouse. You can only be a spouse. You cannot have friends. You can only be a friend. So this understanding comes from this abundance. Now, what abundance means is this: in this human form, it is not possible to own anything, including your human body. Everything in life is allocated to you, gifted to you. To do what? To make a difference, to add the highest value. And if you continue to add the highest value, your allocation increases. If somebody else has higher value than you, the allocation moves to that person. That's the law. Look at General Motors. At one time, it was the most powerful company in the world. They had direct connection with the President of the United States. And what was right for General Motors was considered to be right for this country. And they made a great product. Then came Toyotas and Hondas of this world. And they discounted them. So we have the biggest marketing muscles. How can they compete with us? And Hondas and Toyotas kept on improving their product, make it better, make it better. There came a day their product added higher value than General Motors. What happened? Resources started moving. They ended up filing bankruptcy. So my friend, make no mistake that ownership mindset gives you stress. All your stress comes from ownership mindset, and that's where the greed comes in. I have to save enough for my retirement. You're constantly worried rather than worrying about adding the highest value. Whatever resources you have, I came to this country with $8. And basically, it took me a while to understand. I started my company in '73 and used this conventional wisdom of watching for the bottom line. My consultants by default, my attorney, my accountant, my banker. In 1980, I was literally bankrupt. Then I realized what I was doing wrong. When I changed my paradigm to this oneness thought process, it dramatically shifted. I started our unwritten law of our corporation was, if our product is inferior to anybody on the market, we will discontinue, because your resources ultimately begin to deplete if you have an inferior product. Until you are the best in the market, you have no reason to exist. So abundance, my friends, is a paradigm which is going to allow you to think big. Right now you think, whatever my limited resources are, I can only do so much. But if you disown everything you have, realize this fact that in this human form, you cannot own anything. Everything is gifted to you. Think big. Resources will come to you because we are all one. And your vision is going to bring people with resources with you. So don't think small. So then that empowers you. And the last, N. That should be easy. Living in now. See, when you want to add value, the highest value, that is your purpose of life. In every confrontation, every situation, whether you are home, before you go home, before you knock on the door or open your door, understand that you are there to add value. You are there to serve. You are there to make a difference. You don't own your family. You don't own your son. You don't own your home. They are all given to you to practice what you are placed here to do, is to add the highest value. If you stay on that path, your stress disappears. Success becomes a byproduct. Anything you do, it becomes successful because you are only focusing on adding the highest value. That puts you into now because you are not worried about what happened in the past. You are not having alibis for your failures. Your masters in MBA and PhD, they all basically train you to how to explain your failures meticulously. They don't teach you how to succeed. Your success only comes when you realize your mission, your purpose of life is to make a difference, to add the highest value in every confrontation, whether you meet a stranger or you meet an enemy, because it doesn't change. We are all part of one. I said, Ratanjit, other people are not going to practice. If I practice, I'll be taken advantage of. Well, if it is a part, other person is part of you, there's who is to take advantage of. And that is where you become a value-adding entity. Imagine in a corporation, if you are an entity which constantly think about adding value, if your boss is screaming at you, you are thinking, how do I add value? you will diffuse that anger, and you become a value-adding entity. Now, here is a key difference. Living in now converts you into a value-adding entity. We all do good, and we want trophies and medals for that. We blast our name on the buildings when we give little money. My dear friends, your true value comes when you become goodness itself. The sun does not give you heat or light. It is light. If you see the psychology of the universe, which has made you, which has made everything around you, you bring a rose plant, plant it in your backyard, nurture it. One day it blooms. It gives a beautiful rose. This rose bush has succeeded in giving you this rose. But does it keep its success, its fragrance, its beauty to itself? Does it discriminate when a criminal comes or a saint comes? And when you pluck it, it gives you more. You are placed here to create successes, not to hold on to successes. You are placed here to add value, highest value. But you cannot do that till you become a value-adding entity itself, until you become goodness itself. So ultimate or human, if we become a true human, we are basically a highest value-adding entity. We become goodness itself. We don't need any trophies or medals for that. Does your hand need any trophies or medals? See, in oneness, you have to realize, if I have an itch on my nose, my finger goes and relieves me of that itch. Now, if I have an itch on my hand, do I expect my nose to come and relieve me? That's what we are doing. In oneness, you keep on serving, and somehow you will be taken care of. Stop worrying about what is going to happen to you. Just become a value-adding entity. Your life automatically falls into place, and your body chemistry falls into place. You become healthier in that thought process. The whole scene changes, and you finally become a human being. Thank you. Greetings. I'm Ratanjit Sondhe. Welcome to this worldwide broadcast. And I'd like to especially welcome to our InNow team members, its associates, its board members, and our partners around the world. And my friends, today we're going to talk about the foundational pillars for real and sustainable success. And this is our first session, and this session we are going to talk about is core value of oneness. Now my question to you is, what is success to you? Is it money? Is it buying a beautiful car, having a huge bungalow, or a yacht, or friends, or health, or growing up together with your loved one? See, we spend tremendous amount of energy in obtaining this thing called success. And we mortgage our home, we sacrifice our marriage, our loved ones. In the process, we go crazy, and we even lose our most valuable asset, our health, although we make money. That is not success. That spells failure. See, it is apparent that everything we have been told and we know and we have learned and we believe about success is a myth. Because we are told success is a destination. And success, because it is a destination and begins to justify the mean, somehow or some way we want to attain it. But reality, my friends, the true success is a journey. Until we learn to make our every living moment a success, we will miss out on this true and sustainable success. See, ultimately, the fact is that we are never anchored in the truth. And not only we are not anchored in truth, but our truth is not universal, it's not complete, it is not timeless. Because your truth is different than mine. All our truths are not only different, but they are relative, they are incomplete, and they are erroneous, because we gather all the information through our experiences or education into our brain. And my friends, brain is the most unreliable organ in our human body, because it gathers data from its 5 limited organs. Your eyes can only see a certain frequency of light. You can only hear a certain wavelength of sound. You can only touch and feel certain things. So at very best, the data we gather is incomplete. But it doesn't stop there, because our ego contaminates these truths with all its manipulative illusions. And we end up getting focused on what is in it for me. So my friends, all our realities are skewed and erroneous because they get contaminated by our ego and its manipulations such as fear, greed, insecurity, all that. Is there a wonder why all these amazingly intelligent leaders who are highly educated end up doing extremely stupid things? See, ego disconnects us from our own inner power. भगवान कहते हैं कि मैं तो हमेशा तुम्हारे अंदर ही बैठा था, यह तो तुम्हारी मैं है जिसने मुझे तुमसे जुदा कर रखा है. means I was always there within you. It is your I, me, and mine which has separated us. So now, is there any antidote to this ego and all the blindness which this ego and its manipulation, fear, greed, insecurity causes us? Well, see, probably if we answer these two questions, we may find the answer to that antidote. Number one question is there one fundamental truth which removes all these illusions of ego? The second question is, if we are not our ego, then who are we? Let me take you back to history. Remember 1968, Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, Martin Luther King was assassinated. Now, unfortunately, that was the year I chose to come to the United States, in 1968. I landed here with $8 in my pocket, 2 masters and almost a PhD at the University Department of Chemical Technology in Bombay. And I came here with my childhood dream of starting a business in America. In 1973, I decided that I'm going to start my business. So I contacted an attorney and an accountant and asked them to incorporate my company. They listened to my story and they asked me some fundamental question. I said, Ratanjit, do you have any experience? I said, no. But do you have any unique technology, patent, or something which you're going to be different? I said, not yet. Well, you must have well thought out business plan or marketing plan. I said, what is that? Then they looked at each other and they said, you must have a lot of money. I said, not really. I may be able to borrow a couple of $1,000s. So they looked at me and looked at each other and said, well, look, in between the two of us, we have 50 years of experience. And when we are giving you this advice, we are doing it because we like you. He said, look, business is not cut out for you. Do your family a favor, find a job. Somebody will hire you because of all your degrees, but business is not for you. I said, guys, if you don't want to incorporate my company, I'll find somebody else. He said, well, if you're that stubborn, we will incorporate you. But at least hire people with a lot of experience because you have none, and put together a proper business plan. And I did. I took that advice, hired highly qualified, experienced people, and they helped me put together a very well thought out business plan, and we started business. The very first year I made money. Now let's look forward in 1980, Carter administration. Interest rate was going at 22% and no jobs to be found. And the same accountant and attorney called me. I said, Ratanjit, we have a very bad news and maybe a good news. So they came in my office, locked the door. I said, what is the bad news? They said, for all practical purposes, you are broke. I said, so what is the good news? So you are in America. The law of this land allows us to protect you against creditor, and we can settle your debt pennies on the dollar, save you millions of dollars. I said, is it ethical? Can it be done? Say, it's done every day. This is a normal business practice. It didn't sit well with me. I was very disappointed. Went home completely frustrated. And in that moment of deep frustration, I remember what my mother used to say. I said, look, there are two paths of success. One is the path of knowledge. But this path of knowledge, although is used more universally, but it will derail you. because this world is going to give you masters, PhDs, and it'll rate you as an expert, and you begin to stop learning. See, this knowledge path only works if you continuously remain as a student, but we don't. And as a consequence of that, you fail and you go on a roller coaster ride. The second path is the path of wisdom. I say, where do you get that? He says, wisdom lies within you. You have this human body which is equipped with tools to look outside. We cannot see within us, but this wisdom lies within you. So I said, how do I find it? He said, I'll give you a key, and the key is oneness. So what does that mean? You are here and I'm here, there too. So but that is what you have to decipher. It may take you lifelong to understand what is oneness. But the fact is there is only one. And if you can decipher that, that wisdom will give you everything you need. And I couldn't comprehend. And now I'm sitting in my library and completely devastated. And I randomly picked up a book. And I looked into this book and I found a quote from my idol, Albert Einstein. And the quote says, a person experiences life as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. Then he says further, our task therefore must be to free ourselves from this self-imposed prison, and through compassion to find the reality of oneness. The same exact word. And I jumped out of my bed. I said, it didn't matter whether you come at it by philosophical side or scientific. It all leads to oneness. So at that time, first time in my life, that word got validated in my brain. And at that point, I suddenly had a mission. I knew why I was in business. I was starting to doubt myself. So why am I in business? So finally, my mission was to see if oneness works in business. So I went to work next morning, and my accountant and attorney has prepared all the paper. He says, look, we have been waiting for you. Sign it here. We'll file it, and nobody will know. I said, we are not filing anything. He said, what are you going to do? I said, call a meeting. He said, what are you going to tell them? So you are going to tell them what you told me. He said, they are going to walk out on you. 80% did. And rest 20%, I sat with them and convinced them to leave. At that point, I went to the universities in Ohio. We are blessed with very good schools, and selected a team of about 20 people, whereas 75 people used to work for me. So I sat them down after I selected them. I said, look, there are 4 conditions which you have to accept unconditionally if you want to work here. Number 1, if you ask me what your job is, I cannot give you job description. Any problem you encounter, you have to solve that problem. You are the CEO of that problem. And until you solve the problem, that problem remains in your lap. And of course, we are all going to help. Now, second, that if you ask me what your title is going to be after 5 years or 10 years, I can't answer that either, because we are not going to have any titles. And third, the most important thing is that you have worked very hard on your degree. My advice to you is frame it in a beautiful frame and send it to your mother, because I don't want to see even the copy or mention of your degree. If you accept to be a student again, don't join this company. And fourth, since you technically do not have a degree, I don't know what you're good at. So I'm going to rotate you in every department till you master that department, and at the end of the complete cycle, we'll sit down and ask you what excites you. Right now, you don't know why you went and got that degree. Somebody must have said you'll make more money, so you became a chemist or you became an engineer. But you don't know what excites you. So the area which excites you, that is where you're going to spend 70% of your time. And my friends, we built a very successful company with these fresh out of college students with zero experience under the guidance of oneness-based principle. We used to meet every Saturday to understand what oneness is, what its principles are, what its consequences are. And in 2007, sold it for an asking price to Dow Chemical. Now, the most important thing is that when you see a tree, how do you value it? You value the tree by the fruit it gives, right? But it only gives its fruit if its roots are nurtured. What nurtures the roots? Generally, you'll say the value system nurtures the root. But the thing is this, that our entire value system guided by the worldly wisdom will only remain a wish or a dream, and it cannot be attained till we understand fully and comprehend oneness and apply those principles. See, let me ask you another way. Ethics, generally, we are told, will lead us to success. Now, what if we created a culture of ethics in our company and we taught ethics? We should have ethics, right? You remember McKinsey Corporation? Their core culture is ethics. And Rajat Gupta, who was the CEO for several years, taught that ethics. But he had to go to jail because he himself could not follow ethics. You see, you can have any character, you can play any character, but your true character can never be an act. Remember Ben Kingsley? He played the role of Mahatma Gandhi. And if Mahatma Gandhi was auditioned for that movie, they would have said, well, we can't take you, you don't know how to act. He studied everything he could get his hands on about Mahatma Gandhi, so he could play the role. And he got every possible award for this role. Great role. But my friends, he never became Mahatma Gandhi. Did he? You see, our true character is simply not available to us. It's not that we can teach that. It is available from inside if we plant the wisdom of oneness within us. That is when our true character comes out. So now, you must ask, what is this thing called oneness? See, it's like a seed of this mightiest tree. It has all the wisdom, how its bark should be, its leaves should be, its fruit should be. It's all there in this tiny little seed. Similarly, oneness has that wisdom, how we attain success, how we live life, how we have total success. To understand this oneness, let's look at from a different light. You see these light bulbs, they have different wattage, different design, different manufacturers. But when they are lit, they have a live wire connection to a single powerhouse. They are alive. My friends, similarly, when we are alive, we are connected to a single power source. You can call it super God or superpower, or if you are religious, you can call it God, but that is all one. And it is what oneness is. See, either our perception about us is that I'm a light bulb. In that case, I can have a different color, a different gender, a different age, a different nationality. All those are associated with this bulb. But when it is lit, the power is all one. So it is up to you to decide how you define yourself. In this bulb mode, you will always have very limited capabilities. It is only in the power mode that you have unlimited capabilities. We are all an integral part of one bigger source, bigger power source, unifying us into oneness. To further understand this, this is our human body, brain and human body. Human body is made out of the elements of this earth. It knows that it has limited life. It knows it can get hurt. If there is too cold or too hot, it protects itself. If there is a poisonous thing which is very bitter, it spits it. So body is designed to protect itself. So it will always remain in the insecure mode and also practice fear, greed, insecurity. All that is associated with the body mode. There is nothing wrong or right with you. It is only in the oneness mode, my friends, that it is completely secure. It is totally in peace with itself. So it is up to you. If you begin, your habit is always operating in the body mode, then you will always be insecure. You have to change your habit and you begin to operate in the oneness mode. भगवान कहते हैं हमें, बड़े बनने में जिंदगी गुजार दी तुमने, बड़े बनने में जिंदगी गुजार दी तुमने. अरे भाई, पूछ तो लिया होता मेरा मकसद तुम्हें बनाने का. अरे भेजा था तुम्हें एक इंसान के लिबास में. दिस ह्यूमन बॉडी इज नथिंग बट ए लिबास. भेजा था तुम्हें एक इंसान के लिबास में, और तुम हो कि इस लिबास को ही खुद समझ बैठे. अरे भाई, ना तुम जवान हो, ना बूढ़े, ना पुरुष, ना नारी. यह तो महज लिबास की महिमा है, ना कि तुम्हारी. काश तुम पहचान सकते अपना ये असली रूप. अरे तुम में तो छुपा है स्वयं मेरा ही स्वरूप. So until we understand this, otherwise we'll waste all our life in becoming big. And God says, look man, I sent you in this human uniform and you mistook this human uniform as you. Remember, you are not old, young, man or woman, black or white. These are all properties associated with your human body, your human uniform. I wish you could realize that what enlivens you is me, my power, which is the same in every living human being. So until we practice that, we will not be able to understand and capitalize on the power of oneness. So either we are a light bulb or the power in the light bulb. And in this mode, we'll always have ego, and ego infested all its manipulations, dishonesty, greed, fear, insecurity, all that. And It is only in the oneness mode all those qualities come in us. If you can write that I want to be honest, I want to be creative, all that, you can write all you want. But you will never be able to live that until your wisdom comes through oneness. See, ego is a debilitating illusion, whereas oneness is empowering enlightenment. Another way to understand is the ego is just like darkness is absence of light. You can fight darkness all you want, but you bring light into it, darkness goes away. Similarly, ego and all its manipulations are basically absence of oneness. Once you comprehend oneness and live oneness, ego simply disappears. Otherwise, we keep on saying, I don't have any ego. And that statement is the biggest ego there is. My friends, you are either your ego or oneness. In the ego mode, the worst example is Hitler. In the oneness mode, the best example is Mahatma Gandhi. See, even our body, human body is designed in oneness. Look at all the organs. They continuously give their best, unconditionally. Imagine if you plant a brain in each of the organ. Sooner or later, some organ is going to say, heart is going to say, well, look, I'm pumping blood all the time. These other limbs are not doing as a great a job, so I'm going to stop. The whole body is going to die. One bad organ can kill the entire body. It operates in oneness. Now, in our case, if I have an itch on my nose, my finger goes there and relieves me. But if I have an itch on my finger, I expect the nose to come and relieve me. That's how we live our life. I have been good to you, you ought to be good to me. In oneness, you give, serve, and add value unconditionally. Let me give you another gross example. We have trillions of cells in our human body. They sacrifice their very being for the well-being of this bigger body. But once in a while, there comes a cell in our body which has its own agenda. We call it a cancer cell. My friends, when we are operating without the wisdom of oneness, we will be unethical, we will be selfish, we will be callous, just like a cancer cell, and will destroy the very body we operate in. Look around. Look what we have done to this earth. And this is merely absence of oneness. Now, when we practice oneness, we don't need these crutches, all these things, or titles, or degrees, or all these things. They are not required if we understand oneness. Of course, we can use them. Of course, they will help us in a much better way. We will put them in their right place. But if that's all we have, we will only go so far. But if you have oneness first, and oneness is overshadowing all these things, you have sustainable and true success. See, oneness can give you your total potential. Look at this piece of iron. It has all the potential to become a magnet. It requires electromagnetic force to bring magnetism in it. That is what oneness does to us. Oneness brings complete capabilities which this human system is capable of beyond our capacity, which otherwise is not even conceivable to us. Oneness gives us our vision, our mission, our values, our anchor, everything, our passion. Now, this world tells us that, look, if you want to have sure success, find your passion, right? Because if you're passionate about doing something, it doesn't become work anymore. You'll work harder, you'll work longer, you'll be successful. But unfortunately, we have always looked for passion in a skill or technology, on a subject, and all those things are likely to become obsolete, especially in today's time when we are facing these 4 new realities, and everyone has to be aware of that going forward. Number 1 reality is that our resources are shrinking. Look at water. We took it for granted. Air. All these things are because we have not learned to recycle them. We have not learned to respect them. So the shrinking resources is going to reposition us. If any company has to obtain sustainable success, they have to keep that factor in mind. We have to not only waste the resources, we have to recycle them, we have to reuse them. Another reality is higher expectations. Whatever you have delivered to a customer, you better improve it. So what does that mean? It means it has redefined our competition. Our true competition, my friends, is our last best. So until we learn to make our best better, we will not be able to stay in business. Now there is a fundamental, honest question I want to ask you. If you have really produced the best, that means you have utilized the full capacity of your brain, your education, your resources, your experience. That is the only way you can produce your best. If you have not utilized all your resources, all your knowledge and everything, then you have cheated. So now if you have been honest to produce your best, how are you going to make it better? What else you are left with? So to make it better, you have to have some innate wisdom which is hidden under the umbrella of oneness. And the next reality is total transparency. Honesty is not just a requirement anymore. It is a fundamental necessity for businesses to succeed. See, if you look at our own human body, your eyes are connected directly with your brain. Although the brain starts to manipulating that information, but eyes never lie to your brain. You know why? Because they are one with this body. Same thing, what you hear, it goes directly to your brain. So you rely on what you see, you will believe, you say that. So until you operate in oneness, total honesty cannot exist. And without that, you are not going to be able to succeed. The next reality is lightning speed of change. See, if you are in the taxi business, you have spent $1 million for getting the license. That is of no worth because there is Uber. If you are making a living as driving Uber, think again. There is completely self-driven cars coming. If you are selling cars, think again. A lot of people are going to just call for a car. They are never going to own a car. And then this very stable industry, energy industry, oil and gas and power. If you are working for any of these companies, think again. Because imagine if power can be transmitted from one end of the earth to another without wires or loss of power. That is reality today. In fact, we are directly involved with that technology. So we know that it is a reality. So it's going to transform the way we see things. Imagine you are driving in a car, you dial the power, and you never have to fuel your car. An aeroplane flying doesn't have to fuel, it can go around and around without fueling. So that is the reality. My friends, everything is changing. So until we design our business, keeping this in mind, reality, so we have to constantly change, constantly make things better. So now, under these circumstances, what should be our passion? It has to inspire us to learn new things constantly. And it has to support, it has to have the support from our surrounding, our universe, our bigger one. And it has to nurture collaboration. It can't be, you cannot work in segregation because you are all having the same passion going forward. And that also has to generate complete, total success, not a segment of success. And it has to be such that will never become obsolete. To see that reality, let me take you through another thought process. Let's look through this another window. How are we designed? This picture here is our brain, and this is our universe. So they are designed very similarly, right? So we are designed by the universe. Now, let me bring it to the earthly example. This car is designed to go forward from here to San Francisco. But if you drive this thing in reverse from one suburb to another suburb, first of all, you will have a stiff neck and you will have a massive, massive accident because it's not designed to drive long distance in reverse. So how are we designed? To understand that, let's look at clearly the psychology of this universe which has designed us. To understand that, let's plant a rose bush, a simple experiment. We water it, we nurture it, put it in a proper sunlight, and one day it becomes successful and it gives us this beautiful rose. This is all it is capable of doing. So now, if a saint passes by, does this bush enhances the fragrance or the beauty of the rose? Or if a criminal passes by, does it decrease? No. It gives fragrance and beauty unconditional. And not only that, the gardeners will tell you, if you pluck these roses, it'll give you many more. It does not hoard its successes. Have you ever seen an apple tree eats its own apple? It's only us, which are also designed by the same psychology. And we are placed here to generate successes unconditionally and not to hoard them and not to worry about who gets the credit. So we simply focus on producing our successes unconditionally. That should be our passion. Our purpose and our passion should therefore be to add the highest value unconditionally. But we say, well, look, these people added the value. Many of them added very high value, highest value. But they did it conditionally and not in every case. So the secret word is unconditionally. So if we continuously add or keep our focus on adding the highest value unconditionally in every thought, in every action, in every encounter, and that becomes our passion, then, my friends, nobody can stop us from succeeding. Now, let me ask you a question. Is there a difference between adding the highest value or becoming a value-adding entity, highest value-adding entity? What is the difference? See, we all add value. We all do good things. Now look at America. Most giving society. They give charitable contribution over $373 billion a year. And 71% of that comes from individuals. There's a very interesting article I came across in New York Times. It says, how salad can make you fat. What is called as moral licensing. What happens is, we follow this salad diet all week, and then suddenly we feel that we have earned the right to eat this piece of cake. So it neutralizes everything. We keep a little scale in our head. See, if you remember Enron, they were the biggest charitable contributing organization in Texas. But at the same time, they were the biggest fraud company. They were practicing fraud. So they were balancing one against other. In US, we have so many volunteers who give their work. During the day, they are not kind and they are totally different, but in the night, they go give blood. So there is a contradiction in our whole thought process. See, we do good work and we want to gather trophies and medals. A lot of us sit on non-profit entities to boost our resumes. But my friends, we never become goodness itself. We never become rose, because rose does not give fragrance. It does not give beauty. It is fragrance. It is beauty. Until we become that value-adding entity, our ego will always rule us. It is only under the oneness that we can transform ourselves into highest value-adding entity. Now let's talk about business a little bit. What is essential for thriving business? First thing is that we have to make decisions. And a lot of the time we have 5% or 20% or 40% information to make a decision. So we need intuitive sense to succeed. So where do we find that intuitive sense? First of all, my friends, we have to know who we are. Again, in this human body mode, if this human body is controlling the brain, you are going to have these qualities. You're going to have ego. You're going to have insecurity. You're going to have greed and fear, because body is designed that way. But if the same brain is directed by oneness, it will have peace and it will have unlimited potential, unlimited capacity. The same brain. Brain is basically a beautiful tool, but depends on who controls it. If brain becomes your master, which is attached to the human body, you are doomed. if your oneness becomes master of the brain, you exceed all your expectations. So now the second essential part for thriving business is better communication. Because if we are not able to communicate with our customers, with our suppliers, with our inner people, we simply cannot succeed. The experts tell us that before we go there, our leadership and our success depends on our capacity to ethically communicate, honestly communicate, without our hidden agenda communicate. Now, what we see from expert is communication is three-part. Doesn't matter how sophisticated your language is, how greatly designed your word power is, that only contributes just 7% towards communication. And the tone is 38%. Is there a wonder when you are angry at your child, only anger is conveyed, not the message? Until you are part in respect and kindness, you are not able to bring your tone, which will provide you the right communication. And the third element is the body language. Now, 93% is body language and the tone. And they do not lie, my friends. You cannot lie with your body language and your tone. That's why many times you see this jazzy salesperson and you say, but something I don't believe about him or her. So until your tone and body language falls in place, you are not able to communicate completely. And the total honesty, therefore, is essential. And you cannot practice total honesty until you are part in oneness, until you begin to comprehend and live oneness. Honesty is not available to you. See, now let me ask you, all you intelligent people, how do we get tone and body language? Is it intelligence? Is it our education? Is it our training, culture, nationality, gender, age? What gives us body language and tone? There is a simple word called empathy. Empathy gives us the power to understand the words which are not spoken. You have to feel. It gives us the feeling of somebody's joy and pain. That is what empathy is. And without empathy, you are simply not able to communicate. Now, let me ask you, does your pride and ego interfere with this empathy? I came across this amazing article which was published in New York Times. The heading was Powerful and Cold-Hearted. They talk about mirror neurons in our brain. The children use that to copy your habits. They don't copy your lectures. They copy your habits. So they did an experiment. They gathered people randomly and divided them into two groups. One group, they asked them to write essay on their challenges and failures, what they are grateful for. And the other group, they asked them to write essay on what their biggest achievements, what they are proud of. And after they wired their brains and played this mundane movie of compressing a stress ball, they found these amazing results. The group which wrote essays on their failures and they were grateful for life, they had the highest activity in the mirror neurons. And people who wrote essay about what they are proud of their achievements, has literally no activity. You see, activity in the mirror neurons gives you capacity to empathize. And now what do we do with this ego and pride associated with all our victories and achievements? We feel good about it, don't we? So ego and pride is natural, isn't it? So what do we do with it? We should give it to the real doer present in us. And feel unconditionally grateful. So how do we express our gratefulness? भगवान कहते हैं, अरे मैंने एक छोटी सी चीज जो वापस ले ली तुमसे, मैंने अपनी एक छोटी सी चीज जो वापस ले ली तुमसे, तुम बिलख बिलख कर रो पड़े, रोस किया, ताने दिए, यहां तक कि मेरी औकात पर भी शक किया तुमने। अरे भाई, गिनती तो आती थी तुम्हें, जोड़ ही लिया होता हमारी रहमतों को। How many great things we have, but we never express gratefulness. And let me give you an exercise, because this entire lecture is going to remain at the knowledge level, and we practice habits. Until you develop a habit of gratefulness, you will never be able to practice that. So here is the exercise, very simple exercise to develop this habit of gratefulness. You have to do it 40 times, because they say if you practice something consecutively for 39 times it becomes a habit, or 30 times it becomes a habit. I would ask you to do it 40 times. Get up in the morning, have your shower, pick a time, and every time you stand in front of the mirror after you are dressed up, look in the mirror. Look at this amazing human body and go through mental exercise of seeing clearly how amazing this body is. Its capabilities, it generates its own blood. You don't do anything. It's self-operating and neutralizes the poison you eat. Now realize that this body is gifted to you for one more day. You do not have a license or agreement to have this body. So this body is gifted to you for one more day. You should be grateful. So now, this body is only useful when it is alive. So when you breathe, it indicates that you are alive. So from that exercise, when you move out, keep your subconscious mind on the breathing. So this keeps you in a meditative mode and constantly reminds you that you're alive, and constantly gives you a feeling of gratefulness. So this gratefulness washes away your greed, your fear, your insecurities, and you are forever fresh and creative. So do this exercise to empower yourself. So this is my gift to you today. You see, these great athletes, when they achieve something, they immediately bow to give their victory to their God or the supreme power. So they want to get rid of this pride and ego as soon as they can. Let me tell you an interesting story. Remember September 11? There was an amazing, sad collapse of our Twin Towers. And the third day, September 13th, I was coming back from work. So my wife said, well, why don't you stop by at the local grocery store and pick up some fruits and vegetables? So while I was gathering my things, a lady, wonderful lady, she looks at me, the remorse, fear, and she was very upset. And she says, well, look, why don't you go back to your country? Leave us alone. And I looked at her. I said, ma'am, and that's an example of empathy. The words did not affect me, but I could feel her pain. I said, ma'am, you are in pain. And please know that I am in the same pain as you are. We are in it together. But by screaming at me or by hitting me, if it reduces your pain, please do it. We are into it together. And tears were starting to flow in her eyes, and she hugged me. And then in this store, people watching started hugging each other. See, भगवान कहते हैं कि कैसा निराला है तुम्हारा ये चलन, कैसा निराला है तुम्हारा ये चलन, अपने ही बनाए भगवान की पूजा करते हो और मेरे बनाए इंसान से बात भी नहीं करते। अरे भाई, जब तुम देख पाते हो मुझे अपने ही बनाए पत्थर की मूर्त में, तो भला क्यों नहीं देख पाते मुझे मेरे ही बनाए इंसान की सूरत में? See, the next part of that exercise which I gave you, by thanking for the breath for this human body, extend that one more step. They'll park you into oneness. Look into your eyes and see life in it. This human body without life is useless. And then when you look into your eyes, you see the presence of that one power in you. Bow to that power. Realize that power. So now, my friends, this body is gifted to you. The life present in this body is oneness. Where does it leave you? You don't exist. So now when you go out of that exercise, when you see in somebody's eyes in front of you, the first thing you see is the presence of the same power which enlivens you, enlivens that person. So you bow to that power. We have a custom of saying namaste. I bow to the power in you. And that automatically puts you in the mindset of empathy, a desire to add the highest value without any expectations. Automatically all these things fall into place, and that empowers you truly. Now the third is inspiring creativity. That's where you get your inspiring creativity. Now let me tell you something about what we confront. There are man-made laws, and then there are universal laws. Man-made laws are confining, whereas universal laws are liberating. Man-made laws are constantly changing. They are constant. Universal laws are never changing. And man-made laws, depends on which government makes them, they are discriminating. Whereas universe makes us laws which are non-discriminating. And we have biased and unbiased. And that's where a stifled creativity by man-made laws, whereas natural laws nurture creativity. So what are the universal laws? There are 9 universal laws. When I put my company through Oneness training, and this book I recommend very highly, whoever wants to go through understanding of these things, they are all there. So based on this 9 universal laws, after my bankruptcy, when I reorganized my company, those 9 universal laws gave us the vision. They gave us the mission. It's the same thing we are now doing, implementing these 9 universal laws into InNow, and it has given us a vision. And our vision, our core purpose is to bring about transformative positive change for humanity and environment through the best technologies in India and around the world eventually. And our mission is very simple based on what we have learned thus far. Will be to achieve our purpose by adding the highest value in every thought and endeavor to our team members, customers, business associates, society, and environment through fully comprehending and living the operating principles. So our second session is going to be all about these 9 universal laws. We have to understand in detail what each law is and how it affects us and how it empowers us. Now, the last item on our thriving business is sustainability. How do you can start a business, you can achieve success, but how do you sustain success? So sustainability means freedom to exist, right? My friends, the only freedom in this human form we have is the freedom to choose our disciplines. And it is by choosing our disciplines that we create our freedom. If we have discipline to eat right, we will create good health. If we have discipline to speak with respect and kindness, we will avoid these conflicts. If we are based in ego and our self-agendas, we lose the capacity to even have a dialogue. So when we choose oneness-based disciplines, success becomes a byproduct. It's an outcome. And sustainability is a gift. So based on oneness and 9 universal laws, we had created at Polycarp 15 operating principles. Every team member would sign those principles, and we will bring those principles to test our decisions. Many times we have to change our decisions because it did not comply with these operating principles. Many times it cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we were able to change and capitalize on this. So our next seminar is going to be on operating principles, which we have selected for InNow. So my friends, there is a fundamental question you may be asking. Is this, we were the only unique company who used oneness wisdom to achieve success? In 90s, I came across this book called Build to Last. This book was originally written to find out why companies succeed. So they focused on a publicly traded company from 1926 to 1990. When they studied these companies, they found a handful of companies which were so unique, they called them visionary companies. For example, if you invested $1 in an ordinary company in 1926, in 1990, the same dollar will become 415. But the same dollar invested in the most successful companies in the same era will become 955. But the surprise is, if you invested the same dollar in visionary companies, it will be $6,356. So they were curious. They wanted to find out what was so unique. So they used the normal business requirements. They said, what did they have in all these things? Did they have good education? Did they have business plan? Did they have unique product? Did they have very good market research? What did they have? They must have a lot of money. They found out they had none of these. So what did they have? They found out that they had core values. They did not select core values to make the company successful, but the core values were there to transform and make a transformative difference to humanity. And who were these companies? They were, these values, by the way, complied with all 9 universal laws. And here is the name of these companies. You have done business with them. Many of them have now brought in Harvard Business School graduates to run the company and might have thrown those values out the window because some of them are having trouble. So let me give you a quick example of one of these companies. How did they become so world-class and so famous? One of the GE's core value was that they would go to a customer and bring something to that customer which will make them succeed beyond their imagination, 10, 100 times, 1,000 times. So they would go to a customer and say, sir, do you know if you had one thing which will transform your company to a mega size, become so successful? He says, well, if we have money, we can make it double, triple, but beyond that, we don't know. So would you allow our team to work with your team? We'll sign non-confidential or confidential agreement with you, but to discover that element. So their team worked with them, and they found that if they had such and such technology, mind you, that never existed at that time, they could transform that company. So GE went and hired people and developed that technology and went back to the company. They tested it. They said, wow, this will really bring us 1,000 times bigger and most powerful. So now they say, but how much is it going to cost us? The GE says, well, we have spent $20 million or $50 million on this. And this young company says, well, I don't have that kind of money. So now GE comes back. He said, now we have what we need, and our core value asks us to give this to them. So how do we do this? So go find out how much can they pay. That gave birth to GE Finance. And this whole journey made them rich with these unique technologies, which they later on capitalized and became a giant, most successful company. So my friends, this is the same path as we have taken in InNow, and our core purpose is very much vested and in line with this universal values, universal principles. So now, when you keep your steadfast focus on the journey of adding the highest value in every thought, word, and action, you automatically achieve this complete success where you can have all the money you want, where you can have health you want, where you can have friends you want, where you can have total happiness. You can have it all. Now, conclusion, I have a fair warning on the reality of life. See, in spite of our noblest intentions, highest education, best technology, maximum efforts, and total commitment of all our resources, we will fail to make this world a better place, and we will always be subjected to these atrocities, murders, killing, discriminations, and cheatings, or this pollution and all these episodes which are associated with greed and fear, until oneness is understood and implemented in every thought and action unconditionally. Thank you. Now, if you have any questions, we'll take a 5-minute break and then come back to you live again for these questions. And in the meantime, you can also take a quick bio break if you want, and we'll meet again here. in each school, each class, teacher must also remind them before they begin their class who they are, what their purpose is. So if this is constantly done, that thing takes hold in them, and that becomes their habit, and that habit is going to reflect in their thinking and in their doing, and they will begin to practice oneness. Next question. In the fast-going world, how can we practice success, or how can we practice oneness? Okay. How can we practice oneness and achieve success? Probably then. In this fast world, you see, you have to realize fundamental that you can't be at two places simultaneously. If you are totally inundated with your day-to-day worries, there's no way in the world that you can practice oneness. It has to hit you hard. When bankruptcy hit me, I hit the low bottom of my life, although my mother has taught me these things and they were ingrained in me somewhere, but I wasn't practicing them. I wasn't living them till I was forced to think again. So this nature has a way of bringing these very difficult times in front of us. They are actually blessings, because it's only under those circumstances we reevaluate our whole life. Why am I even doing all these things? So if you want to do that without coming to that difficult time in your life, then the best thing is the best thing for you is to live this exercise which I have given you. Seeing every morning in the mirror who you are, seeing the divine power within you, and that thing can start to grow. Let's take the fourth question. Well, this is a beautiful question. How do you respond to people who seem to be operating in their ego? So the same thing I've been asked, that Ratanjit, how are you going to practice oneness in this world where nobody even comes close to it? Nobody practices it. See, it is not about others practicing it. It is about you practicing it. If you practice it, you deal with these ego maniac people beautifully, because you are going to give them respect. You are going to serve. You are going to add value to them. And you say, well, then won't they take advantage of you? In oneness, it's all one. There is nobody to take advantage, not to take advantage. But ultimately, world begins to classify you that this person, my God, is amazing, or this company is amazing. They add value, and they don't even ask for anything. So once you earn that position, you automatically firm up very good relationship with your customers, with your clients, with the world. It doesn't matter whether they have ego or actually they all have ego, and that is the best part. So they would feel more comfortable dealing with you. Your honesty will come through, your reliability will come through, your dependability will come through. As a consequence, you begin to gain. You have sustained success. You differentiate yourself from other suppliers, other vendors. So it is of advantage to you that nobody else practices oneness and you can. And fifth question. How to find out if somebody is trying to cheat us and avoid it too, while maintaining oneness outlook and attitude. See, oneness is not a plaque you carry. how can you practice oneness and cheat? They are totally contradictions. If anything, that is absence of oneness. If somebody cheats you and say, no, I'm practicing oneness. Ratanjit, I read this book 4 times and I'm practicing oneness. It is all about one. See, you can lecture it. You can train people in oneness. But the results will only come when you practice it. Next question. How can we implement oneness in such a competitive business environment? This is asked by Rudra. Well, it gives you distinct advantage, because if you go to my slides, you have higher degree of creativity, you have higher degree of intuitiveness, and you are in a much better position to make your best better as compared to your other people. So in competition, ultimately is not with the world, it is ultimately with your last best. It's difficult to understand, but slowly, when it takes home, you would far exceed your competition. You would actually have no competition besides your own last best. But remember, you have to continuously change. You have to continuously learn more. You have to continuously make your best better. So oneness simply directs you to do these things. By having a big stone etched, oneness in your office is not going to do the trick. Next question. If you show too much empathy, then people start considering it as weakness. How do you correct it? See, kindness is the same way. Kindness, people think you are weak. The thing is, it's the other way around. There's a Chinese proverb. They say, whoever first raises their voice have lost in that argument. But these are surface observations. Once you practice oneness, you are not concerned with what world thinks of you, because you are in your own sphere of making a difference, adding the highest value. And sooner or later, all these initial feeling of making you, people calling you weird, people calling you weak, people calling you all these names, it does not matter, because ultimate winning is going to be on your side. Ultimately, advantage is going to be on your side. But it does not look on the surface like that, because we are still living with the old wisdom. See, you have to be careful. See, if you have a beautiful perfume, somebody wants to give it to you, and you bring a bottle, and that bottle already had garlic in it. You washed it and rinsed it, but the garlic smell is so strong. If you pour your best perfume in the bottle which had garlic in it, it'll still smell like garlic. So once you put this oneness wisdom in already wisdom which you have, which is contaminated, you're going to pollute this oneness wisdom. So it is going to take some time to first comprehend and clear your web of old garbage from your brain and bring this new freshness which is going to become your software of operation. And once we go through second session, going through all the universal laws, it will become much more clearer. And then when we go through our 15 operating principles, it will give you a path how to really practice on a daily basis. How can we change our fear and our greed to thoughts of oneness as we are used to these things? Again, we live by our habits. And until we change our habits, knowledge is going to be filed in our brain. Our brain is very clever. Goes through a lecture, reads a book, even goes through a PhD program or master's degree program. It files the information, but does not live it. Look at doctors. Their average lifespan is lower than the normal person. They are trained to be healthy, but they don't practice it. So knowledge will not enrich you until you live your habit. So until you cultivate the habit of thinking and working and every decision flushing through oneness is not going to benefit you. Next question. Please show us the path. How can we use oneness in InNow? That is my role and that is my purpose. So I think I have basically given you an introduction to oneness today. Our more detailed thought process would be when we decipher 9 universal laws, and then finally when we have the third session where we go through all 15 operating values. Because I didn't want to go there first, because then it'll be more massive confusion if you don't even comprehend what oneness is, what its impacts are. How can we gain other people's cooperations when they are not engaged in oneness principles? See, by just having a board on your or pin on your thing that I practice oneness, nobody's going to give you any order or any business. So you have to earn it. And oneness gives you capacity to empathize with them, to listen to them, to understand their problem, understand their pain. And if you are able to solve their problem and just ask for a chance to let me prove that I can solve this problem. And if you are able to do that, obviously they are going to believe in you. But unless you are able to empathize and work with them and listen to them and understand their problem, you are not going to get anywhere. Well, that should conclude. And I'm very grateful for your patience. I know it is long, and I hope that if any questions comes to you, I'm always there, and you can reach out to me. Thank you so much, and have a great day.